All right, welcome to Destination Freedom for tonight. Glad you're on. Let me just make sure. I guess I've got my sound coming into my headphones there. Um, we have a lot going on, and I'm glad you're on. And we have a lot's transpired and lots going on. But I'll get into some of that into the 8 o'clock hour. I want to make sure that we cover. Appreciate that. I want to make sure that we answer all your questions and deal with the state citizenship stuff on this here. We are live on YouTube, and although I won't be able to talk with you on YouTube, if you ask me questions, I think I can see that in the chat, and I might be able to address that. Now, those of you who are on YouTube, if you come over to the DestinationFreedom.org website, and if we're live, which we are now, you'll be able to get into, there'll be links for the go-to meeting, and then I'll be able to hear you, or you'll be able to write, and we'll have more interaction there. So I just want to let you know that. And if this isn't live, then you'll just watch the recording, and hopefully I can answer questions and then, restate the questions so that you know what they are. So thank you for being on. And this hour is going to deal with questions about state citizenship in general, and it'll about the passport process, things that we're doing like that, and we're going to go from there. Now, I'm not at my office tonight. Ran out of time. Got a lot of changes going on at the office. The office is all there's construction going on there. They're doing a renovation, so I haven't been using my office in the last month. Of course, the last 2 weeks I've been in Mexico and at the Anarchapulco Freedom Conference, and we'll talk about that in the 8 o'clock hour. But so there's a lot going on there, and again, I'll give you all this update in that second hour. I don't want to take that this time for that, because this is about answering your questions. So if you have any questions, you can type them in the chat, or if you want to just open your microphone, I'll be glad to answer your questions straight up, and then we can go from there. And if I don't get any questions, then I'll just talk about what changes are going on with the Destination Freedom website and some of the plans we got on our table. So hopefully you've come with questions. Sometimes people just come just to see what's going to happen next, or how we're going to deal with things. Hope I have a nice tan. I made sure that I didn't get burned this time when I was down in Mexico, so it was pretty rigorous getting down there. We had a lot going on, which I'll talk about that later as well. So questions, go ahead. I'll talk about the state citizenship in general. I had a great time down in Acapulco. I got to speak on one particular Sunday for a summit. There was a Dollar Vigilante Summit meeting, which was on the 11th. And that was well received. That was really exciting. And then afterwards, a lot of people came up and were interested in our process and things like that. So I was really thankful for that. And so that was cool. Going to talk. Let's go ahead and until I have some questions. And listen, if we there's go. So someone's coming into the Net says this is your first time and you want to know what is state citizenship. Oh, that's a good question. Well, let me. State citizenship is when we talk about state citizenship, we're not talking about a statutory citizenship or a citizenship created by the state in any capacity. Citizenship in the state is based upon habitation and domicile, not residency. Now, the courts today, because they're trying to destroy, if you will, our constitutional republic, which is pretty much gone already, but they are conflating the terms residency with habitation and domicile. They're not the same things. So you can reside all over the world as long as you want, and be in, and residency is pretty transient. You can be there a week, a month, whatever it is. And different jurisdictions have different amounts of time that affect whether you will come into their jurisdiction or that you qualify for certain benefits or taxation based upon how long you reside somewhere. Okay. But residing somewhere doesn't determine your citizenship. It's habitation and domicile. In many jurisdictions, it plays out that way. So the idea is when we talk about state citizenship, we're making a distinction between state citizenship here in America and federal citizenship, which is based upon being a U.S. or a federal citizen. The federal government determines citizenship by the 14th Amendment. Now, there were citizens in America before there was a 14th Amendment. The Constitution, which was ratified in 1787 or 89, I think it was written in 1787, and then it was ratified, I think, in 1789. But I could have those. I could be mistaken in that. But anyway, long before the 14th Amendment, there were citizens. It says in the Constitution, the citizens of the states are entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. That's a reference, not a creation, but a reference to citizens of the states. The states had citizens of their own before there was a federal government. So when we talk about state citizenship, we're not talking about a citizen of the District of Columbia or a United States federal citizen. We make a distinction that a citizen is of their state. Okay. Now, a citizenship of your state again is dealing with habitation domicile. Your nativity, or if you're born in one of the states, that's your nationality. But the federal government has its own citizens that are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Hang on one second. So Greg asked or mentioned on here, it says the passport return center returned my explanatory statement. I sent it back. That's good. How long should I give them to return the statement to my file before I send my FOIA? Well, that's a good question. That I would wait at least 30 days just so that you can make sure that that document that you sent back has been returned. And you wrote it back to them and told them that it was intrinsic and as part of your passport and your application in order for it to be true and correct under penalty of perjury. Is that correct? That was the language in there. Very much like it says at the top of the explanatory statement. Good. That's excellent. Yeah, give them 30 days, then you can set up your FOIA. And I think that'll be great. It should not come back. And if they send it back again. And let them know that it's to remain with the application for it to be true under penalty of perjury. That's good. So yeah, so that's what, when we refer to state citizens, we're talking about citizens of the states. Now, the federal government is required to uphold the Constitution with and in the states and with their citizens. The federal government does not have to abide by the Constitution. They can come up with rules and legislation specifically in the District of Columbia and for their citizens, which is what the Code of Federal Regulations is all about. It regulates all kinds of behavior that the federal citizens have, and that's because those citizens are in that jurisdiction. So that's what we mean by state citizenship, okay? A lot of times, or many times, people will think that all citizenship is statutory in nature. It's not true. And the reason why I know it's not true is there are state citizens, and you won't be able to find any legislative action where the legislature of that state has created citizens like the federal government did with the 14th Amendment. So, well, yeah, I would agree that if you're a federal citizen or a U.S. federal citizen, you have an income tax liability, as well as resident aliens. And those are aliens that are not U.S. citizens that are residing in the District of Columbia. They also have an income tax liability and have a requirement to file and pay. And so we recognize that. We also in our classes recognize that the federal income tax is constitutional. If you don't know or believe that the federal income tax is constitutional, then you don't understand federal jurisdiction. And And so you might want to understand that they have that power. The Constitution empowers the federal government in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 to have exclusive legislative authority in all cases whatsoever in that jurisdiction. So that is why, and I don't know anybody out there that I'm aware of that would recognize that the federal income tax is constitutional. Okay, it absolutely is. It's created to regulate those citizens. We have some statements on YouTube. I just want to catch them here. It says Christopher, I made the switch to contracting for my work. Did the passport process. What would be the next to do? Alignment for my driver's license. That would be correct. Now that kind of a question, although we're live here and I can answer that question, that would be something that you'd reach out to us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, and we would make sure that you know what's next or what you might want to do. And someone says they're saying they're having a hard time finding the way to annul my marriage with the state. Everyone talks about the common law marriage and recording it, and all that is easy, but it's a little harder to understand nullify. That's interesting. No, there's a lot of people that are interested in that, and there are reasons that are in the statutes of these states that deal with marriage annulment, which means if you're married to a minor or there's some certain kinds of fraud involved and such. But maybe you could allege that the state has defrauded you on some level, or you may have questions and all. That would be an interesting project. But there's many freedom people who don't want to license their marriage. And of course, what you have a right to, you don't have to license. And so I've married a number of people over the years. We've done, marriage is a spiritual concept. It's referenced in the scripture, and that's why we keep it in that category and don't get the state involved in your marriage. We're okay with menage a trois, but not with the state. So, makes it kind of funky, But anyway, it's just some of that stuff there. But I say kiddingly. Rick on the says you're in. Says I am in the go-to meeting app. Okay, that's cool. I don't see you on the. I mean, you may be on, but it doesn't look like you're in the go-to meeting. This is the live on YouTube. So there was a question: is happened to me and my wife, but my son was not returned. Not sure what. The question was, I see, why would the passport center return the part of the application? How often does that happen? How many times back and forth? That's a good question, George. It happens frequently, not all the time, probably less than half the time. No, I'd say maybe 10% of the time the State Department will send back the explanatory statement, and then we mail them back again. And sometimes it happens a couple different times, but you just stay on it, keep mailing it back, and until they keep it. And we have seen them mail it back. A client might miss that, and then they go to do their FOIA, and that document doesn't show up in the record. That's a big deal. So it's important. That's why we put the Social Security number on page 1. That's why we put at the top, this explanatory statement is to remain with and attached to the application. So it's a big deal. Even on our application, it says on there, not valid without explanatory statement attached. So it's a big deal to make sure those explanatory statements remain in the record. Says happened to me and my wife, George, but my son was not returned. Okay, cool. That's all good. Let's I'm going to request this, and we've done this for a class before. Don't talk to each other in the chat, please, because you're having a side talk. People are reading that, and you're not talking to me, and so it ends up being just ask all your questions to the bench. Now, all your questions to me so that I can participate in the conversations, and you can ask your questions to me. Don't ask them and side talk to each other. I'd really appreciate that, because then anyway, it moves me away from what we're talking about, and I have to read that stuff. So, how do I know it will be accepted in the FOIA even if they don't send it back? Well, it's not that it's accepted in the FOIA. When you submit documents in your record, they're part of the record. And when you do a records request, part of the FOIA request, then they can either send all the documents that are in your passport file or specifically the last passport. We usually ask them to provide the documents in the last part of the passport process. Is there a check to confirm whether or not I am both a citizen of the state and also the federal citizen? Your documents you submit under penalty of perjury are what you declare to be true under penalty of perjury. It isn't what the State Department says or thinks or feels about you. Your documents are submitted under penalty of perjury, okay? And they're not making any statements under penalty of perjury about you. So therefore, what they say is irrelevant. We do a lot of rescission of signatures and such other information that's in that explanatory statement. And when we do the passport process, your documents will be in the file when you do get your certified copies of your passport file. And every page is properly numbered and certified, and they're in order, and it's all part of the record. And that's signed by the Secretary of the United States and sealed so that you can use that in court if necessary. So that's it. And you're the one that determines if you're both. You can be both a state citizen and a federal citizen. But most of the time when people are asked, are you a U.S. citizen? They're asking if you're a citizen of the District of Columbia. And usually it's in the context of paying taxes or something in reference to the federal citizen. So hope that makes sense. So any other questions with respect to that? Cool. So some of the things that are coming up, I had sent out an email a couple weeks ago stating that we were going to raise our rates about tenfold, and we were considering that, and definitely had an intention for that because of the value that we bring. You know, whenever you're eliminating a person's income tax liability, you're saving them an awful lot of money for over a number of years. So our process has huge value, but we decided not to raise our rates. But what we did was a procedural thing that we decided to do because we wanted to have everybody on the same page with all the processes. So what we did was, now we require everybody to do everything. Now, of course, that's not everything that we have available, but everyone who does the passport workshop and that does the full passport process is going to have available to them the alignment workshop, the W-8 and W-9, the IRS 1445, and other things. And so we want our clients to have all that data. They also are going to have the all rights reserved stamp, so everybody gets that. So we've just added that all together and have put that into our process. So those that do the passport workshop are going to be able to get access to everything once they sign up for the passport workshop. So that amount is, when you do the math, it comes out to $1660 for the workshop, and it includes everything. And then if you're doing the full passport process where we do your paperwork, you get all those things, and you do get access to those videos, but we'll be doing the paperwork for the alignment, and we'll be doing the paperwork for the W-8 and W-9. So the full passport process gets all those documents done up by us. And so that process is $43.10 for that. That's all we did was just add all those things together, and we've provided all that at the same time. So again, we didn't raise our rates, we just included everything. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to add value to those processes, and so that people can benefit. And then what we did was, and I'm going to send this out in an email. I'll send all the particulars and such as that. But because of what I have to work on next, we've decided that the assistance that people are going to get outside of our processes, they're going to be able to sign up for 6 months worth of counsel for a certain price. If you want one-on-one, it's a certain price. That'll be like $7,200 over 6 months to be able to do that one-on-one. It's a 6 months commitment, and then it'll be a weekly call for an hour. And then if you want to be a part of a group, it can be less for you. It's like $2,400, and you'll be part of a 6-month process on a weekly call to get all your questions answered and everything like that. We do have some other classes that are going to be available, and so that's those will be additional things. Our debt discharge will be one price. We're going to do an IRS class that is basically everything we know about IRS from soup to nuts is what I call it. IRS from soup to nuts, and so that's going to be that's going to include paperwork and things like that, and it's going to be you'll be able to deal with IRS. There's a question: is if I initiated a taxable event like IRA distribution before I've done any of this process to declare myself a state citizen and no longer a federal citizen, will I still be liable to pay taxes on that taxable income if done the same calendar year? Well, I mean, the idea is that you've set up paperwork previously in error. Do you have obligations when you've made errors? Okay, so if you haven't done these processes, then you may want to resolve that, and that may be a path of least resistance, and get that all done before you begin things. But once you file papers with the State Department as true and correct under penalty of perjury, I don't recommend that you perjure yourself by filling out other paperwork as if you're in the federal zone, as if you are a federal citizen, such as that. I would definitely keep those lines clear. But again, you get an opportunity to determine that of where, whether you've created an income tax liability for you, and whether it's much easier just to fulfill that in order to come out. So if it's going to be something long term where an IRA pays out on over a period of time, then you may want to update the paperwork on that and deal with that, or you may decide to pull it out completely and move it into some other thing that's not as vulnerable as an IRA. The stock market will collapse at some point. The dollar will fail at some point. We don't know when, but I mean, take a look at Bitcoin. It's already over $60,000. It is going to move to its all-time high again and move in a different direction because, the dollar is not a safe haven. It's a control at this point. So, yeah, really, precious metals and Monero. But even precious metals, because they have derivatives in those, aren't. I mean, look, how's gold doing as a hedge? Hardly. Gold's terrible money, but it is an asset in the sense of that it's a commodity, so not so bad. So there's this. Sorry about Tom, but did you ever get the system set up for the Matrix call? Oh, I appreciate that. I did see that. I intend to do that call. We did figure out what was going on with the website as far as why we were having trouble. We did make some changes and needed to change the platform. What we're up against now is right now my office is all packed full of stuff because I condensed 2 offices into one. We're supposed to move into a new facility and all that's got to go in. So we'll do that Matrix call as soon as we set up the new office. I haven't forgotten it. We will do that call. I'm looking forward to doing it. We'll record it, and it should be a pretty exciting call. So thanks for reminding me, Don. I appreciate that a lot. So that will be an amazing call. I'm looking forward to that sharing that information as we are able to do so. So that's kind of cool. So anyway, any other questions about our passport process? Is a federal citizen required to be physically present in the geographical United States to go through the passport process? No. We have Americans worldwide do these processes in consulates, and it's much easier in the States when you can just deal with the post office and such as that. But no, we have done them in Luxembourg, Saudi Arabia, China, recently in Spain, New Zealand, Australia. So we've done them all at different consulates around the world, and it's the same thing it's the same just like going to a passport agency where you're in person. You have to understand what you're doing, and you have to have enough confidence to hold your own so that you can do these processes. But no, you don't have to be in the States to do the passport process. Um, and so where do you begin if you haven't done this? What I would do is go to the website, the Destination Freedom website, and you'll see that my picture will be there. And then there's some buttons down below to go to the full passport process, um, or I would, one of the things we're doing differently as well is we're requiring people before they get into the other workshops to take the class. Now, um, both processes, passport processes, require you to take um, the passport workshop requires you to take the class first, and then you get to take the workshop. When you sign up for the full passport process, you won't be able to get to the other workshops until you take the state citizenship class, because it's required. But that's what I would do. If you want to get to know me, understand how we're doing the process and things like that, that state citizenship class is a great place to begin. If you're going to if we're going to do your documents for you, then you go to the website under council assistance, and the council assistance drops down, and about two titles down, it'll say personal full passport assistance. You'll go to a page, and then on that page, there's a button for a DS11 passport application. You'll fill in that passport application. We won't be using it. It's a workshop. And then we'll be creating documents for you. Then down below, you sign up, and then there's a hold harmless agreement. If you're in California, we have a hold harmless agreement for you. If you're in the rest of the states, we have a hold harmless agreement for you. The difference is the notarial act is a little different in California than everywhere else. So we have a hold harmless for you. You have to fill that out, initial every provision, make a choice to release or non-release. That's about arbitration. And then once we have your payment, your hold harmless agreement, and your DS11, then we can prepare your documents and we'll send them out for you for your review. Does the hold harmless need to be signed, or can it be emailed and uploaded? It can be emailed and uploaded. Yes, it has to be signed before a notary. So you have to have the hold harmless agreement notarized. It says here, Ryan says, Christopher, do you have any tips on how to enter into court as a state citizen? Yeah, my tip is don't enter into court. That's my tip. Had a judge threaten a bench warrant. Okay. There's a reason that the state's moving against you. When I claimed beneficiary over a speeding ticket, I had a COLB authenticated by the Secretary of State, Anthony Blinken, which was railroaded. I don't know what a COLB is. Is that certificate of live birth? That means nothing. Listen, you could a birth certificate authenticated is nothing more than having an apostille. Every state in the federal government is a member of the Hague Convention. They can apostille and say that a state birth certificate is authenticated. Okay, that just means that it's authentic. That means that it's got proper signatures and all that. But it doesn't mean anything else other than that. Okay, whether you have a birth certificate, usually you do an apostilled or an authenticated birth certificate when you want to use the birth certificate internationally. That's what that's for. Okay, but outside of that, it means nothing. And of course, to get out of a speeding ticket by having an authenticated birth certificate means nothing. So what I recommend is when you do these processes, do our alignment workshop where you can have, when you fill out your driver's license application, you can have your explanatory statement, and we have in there restoring your right to travel. And so we have a number of court cases and things like that, and that you're not in commercial activity and blah, blah, blah. All that's in your driver's license record. Then do the state's type of FOIA, get certified copies of your driver's license file. When or if you're stopped and you're governing yourself poorly by getting a ticket, then take that certified document into court and let them know you're not doing commercial activity and stuff like that. That's going to be a much better remedy than your authenticated birth certificate. So anyway, the Secretary of State signs all apostilles. If you want to use your certified copies of your passport file authenticated, the Secretary of State signs the certification anyway. They'll also do an apostille if you're in a foreign country. A lot of clients will do that, but it doesn't really produce anything for you. It's a bad remedy. We don't recommend it. But I do recommend governing yourself and not speeding. Otherwise, you have cops at your doors. We don't want cops at our doors. Does the hold harmless need to be ink signed or can be? It does has to be signed before the notary. So that's it. So yeah. So anyway, so that's some of that, and we're excited to see that. I was actually pulled over by a cop the other day. I was driving. I was speeding. I was driving up. I wasn't governing myself that well, but what happens is this particular road you drive up, and then at the top of the hill you hit 50 miles an hour. Then you go, and down lower as you're coming out of town, it's 30 miles an hour. So I wasn't paying attention. Usually I am. But the worst part of that wasn't that I was pulled over and stopped. The worst part is I forgot who I was. So the cops pulled me over, and I'm usually quick at getting the license and registration. And he wasn't going to ticket me, so he didn't. But I should have told him I wanted the ticket so I could have played out this in the court and had my certified copies and go in to see if how that worked. But I think maybe it's good that I didn't, because if I'm not mistaken, this coming year I have to do my driver's license again. And I think it was last fall that we started to do the restoring the right to travel. So I don't think my current documents have the restoring the right to travel. So I'll be doing that this coming summer. And then I can feel like I'll take a ticket and check it out and see if that works out for us. So that'll be kind of exciting. And of course we'll keep that in, we'll set that up and see how that goes for you. Anything else? So sorry that you had that trouble, Brian. Any other questions anybody has? Did it audio cut out for me after my comment over President Reynolds? Sorry, it cut out. I guess that's just more proof that we'll never be on Mars, because the audio cuts out here on Earth. So not likely we're going to be on Mars. I don't believe we're there anyway. Let's see here. Every time to revisit the comment. Let's see. Yeah, or is birth certificate and proof of identity DS11 requirement sufficient? I'm not sure. Okay, let me see here. Going through the process abroad, does it require the federal citizen to surrender their passport for a certain amount of time? Yeah, if you have a passport and you're doing the process, you're going to turn in your previous passport, because they're going to punch holes in it, and then they're going to issue new passport. So if you're doing it abroad at a consulate, they'll turn that around in about a week or less. So that's not a big deal. They don't hold it. If you're doing it here stateside, that process will be 4 to 6 weeks or quicker. And yes, they'll hold on to it until. So you don't want to be traveling, if you're going to need it. And if you have a passport book and or card, then of course you're going to need to turn in both those. If you lost your previous passport, we want to acknowledge that in the explanatory statement, but you'll have to fill out a DS-64, which is going to disclose where it was you lost it or what have you, and you have to have that included in with your DS-11. Yeah, that's all required. You'd have to have, there's two things that you need with respect to the passport process. One is a birth certificate or a certificate of naturalization. And the other will be like a driver's license or proof to the acceptance agent that you are who you are when you sign your DS-11. So the acceptance agent is going to fill out and sign the bottom of page 1 of the application, and the issuing agent is going to fill out the bottom of page 2 of the passport application. So both those require two different acceptance agents. So, all right. Okay, any other, I want to make sure I didn't miss any. So there was a question, is that where do you begin? Yeah, so just go to the website and let me just make sure that I I answered your question when you're talking about precious metals and Monero. Was there another question about that? We do take Monero, and we highly recommend that. Number of as was anybody on this call in Acapulco? That'd be interesting. No, or is anybody part of? Oh, John, you were. Oh, that's cool. Well, we should have had dinner together. So, well, that's cool. Well, good. Yeah, I'm glad to see that. So when you come in, I want to make sure that uh, Jeff gets credited for being a part of this process. So that's good. Yeah, I would have liked to. Did we see each other there? Maybe you came up to me or something. I don't remember. But okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I have to learn and put a face to your name so that I can remember everything. I've got a couple text messages where someone said, "Yeah, I was talking to you about state citizenship in Acapulco. Do you remember that?" I'm like, "That's all I talk about. I don't know. I haven't said anything to make a distinction between who you are and the conversation we have. But usually, when I talk to someone after a while and they've talked about their stuff, I begin to remember our conversations and all that stuff. But hey, I'm just a guy, you know. I just we talk about this stuff all the time. I remember. Then I sometimes would have clients. Uh, will leave a message on my phone and say, "Hey, this is Bill. We talked before about state citizenship. Give me a call back." No number. I'm like, I got about 8 bills in the process, so I don't know which bill it is. Um, that says watch Dollar Vigilante all the time. Glad to become acquainted with this freedom community. Oh, that's great. Um, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to helping a lot of people, especially in the crypto space, make sure that they don't have bad paperwork and that they stay out of the federal zone and they can keep all of their profits. That'll be awesome. Um, so so yeah, so there's a question. Let's see. Thanks, Christopher. What George has a good question. Did I miss George's question? Um, can you talk about acceptance agent process and expectations? Sure. Yeah. There's two types of agents that are part of the passport process. One is the acceptance agent, which we always try to remind you that they're supposed to be accepting. The acceptance agent at the post office, and it's a little different at the passport agency because they're so together and are going to produce your process for you. Um, so, but all the acceptance agent isn't part of your process. Okay, they're not signing anything under penalty of perjury about your information. So they're not a party to determine whether you have good information on your application. And so they're just supposed to check your ID, have observe you when you're signing your application, and then just take your documents and process them. That's all. They're not making a determination whether you can get a passport or not. And they're not there to determine whether you do get a passport or not because the State Department is capable of rejecting or doing that job. The acceptance agent is not the issuing agent. They're not a party to whether you're going to get a passport or not. Also, none of the information is required on the application. It's voluntary. We have documents from the State Department in the passport process saying that the information provided on the application is voluntary. And so we recognize that. And the acceptance agent may think that they have to have a social. It's just not true. We have never put a social security number on the application. Always will put the social security number on the explanatory statement so that it can remain with the record. That's what we do. Um, So anyway, so that's a little bit about the acceptance agent. Brian had said, what's the journey between getting an authenticated person to becoming a citizen? I have nothing. If you want to use your birth certificate internationally, you can get it authenticated either by the Secretary of State in your state or the Secretary of the United States. Either one can authenticate it. Um, but I have no distinction between that I can prove or show between a certificate of live birth or a birth certificate, either one. And I don't recognize that the state is handling those in a different way. They're both available. And sometimes a state won't be issuing both. They may have one or the other. There's all kinds of differences from state to state. But but anyway, every human being is born live. Now they may have had maybe a C-section isn't a live birth. I don't know, but anyway, people don't have to prove that they're alive, or they don't. I mean, they don't have to prove that they're people. A man or a woman doesn't have to prove they're a man or a woman. They just are, and they don't need anybody to prove or disprove it. So I'm not in that whole straw man space of monetizing birth certificate and stuff as if that's that you have that as a child, a minor child, that they have any arrangement, agreement, contract, or anything with respect to the state. I think it's the state's record of an event, and that's the end of it. Now, people have a lot of belief about that, but we don't share that same sentiment. And so I gave that up years ago when we stopped doing A for V and all that, because I had no evidence to support the claim I was making. Therefore, I changed and stopped making the claim. So, and therefore we don't. It eliminated a whole lot of energy, and you get a lot of peace when you don't look for that there's a contract everywhere you turn. I don't have that as a belief system. So, but it's been good. But that straw man thing is a faith-based belief system. I have a faith-based belief system, but I don't have any facts and evidence to support the claim. I wouldn't have any of that with respect to dealing with the state. So, if there's a contract, there should be two signatures, and the party that's alleging there's a contract should be able to produce one. So, that's how that works. So, that makes sense? Okay, we're coming down to the last 20 minutes of this particular call. If we end up not having any more questions, then I'll stay live on some level. Thank you. Do you have any state citizen clients who have obtained a second U.S. passport that's valid for? Yeah, most of our pilots will have two passports for different reasons. Generally speaking, there are some of the reasons that people have two passports is sometimes if they're Muslim, there may be certain jurisdictions that don't want Muslim citizens or those that claim to be Muslim in particular places. So the stamps in them that show that they've entered is one, as well as those that are Israeli. They may have certain jurisdictions that they've been to or gone to. They may have gone to Israel, and so if they were going to enter into a country that's heavily Muslim, could be like the Philippines, could be other Asian countries, then they may use a different passport with respect to that, and that's a common thing. And so you can have more than one passport if there's a valid reason for the State Department to issue you a second passport. What state laws do you need to learn? All of them are just based on state constitution. Yeah, no. First of all, you don't have to know any law. Laws are for the lawless. But this process doesn't require you to know any laws. Even, if you're going to understand federal jurisdiction, you're going to have to understand who has an income tax liability. That'll be important. Okay, but and the laws that are on the books, many of them, if not most of them, are unconstitutional. So the idea that the state can contract or make contracts is part of what's going on out there. But I wouldn't say that if you were actually going to look at every activity that the state is conducting, most of it is not constitutional. But the state does have the power to contract, and therefore it does in a number of different situations. So John's talking about the second 5-star passport. There's no such thing as a 5-star passport. Stars are associated with passport card, not the passport book. Okay, and And the stars, that's a whole patriotic myth stuff about the stars, okay? We did ask the State Department, what do the asterisks or the stars mean on the passport card? They wrote back and said it was classified and that it was security in nature, okay? And they weren't going to disclose the distinctions between the different stars. Now we've been doing this process. Well, let's see. We've been doing this passport work for over 24 years now, and we polled our clients and asked them how many stars they have on their passport card, and we have clients that have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this process isn't making any distinction between stars. But let me just tell you what we do know. I had one client. Oh, by the way, I have 3 stars. I have one client who had security clearances, was in the military, and he has 4 stars on his card. And then his wife, who also is retired military, she has 3 stars. So he has 4 stars, she has 3 stars. Now they have 4 children. 3 of the children have 3 stars, and 1 child has 4 stars. So we don't know what it means. Anybody who says they know what it means, then just ask them for the facts and evidence to support the claim. And be aware that stories aren't facts and evidence. So there is no do not detain list. People want to be on the do not detain list. There's no such thing. I know there's a do not fly list. It can be marked for that. But there is no do not detain list. Everybody wants a get out of jail free card. I should make one available for a small fee. I'll give you a do not, get out of jail free card. But no, I've never seen anything with respect to stars. Again, one of the things that I'm making up about it is that the stars represent how good looking you are. If you have 1 star, pretty bad. If you have 5 stars, you're really good looking. Now, I had a client that had 3 stars, and so he said that he was okay, but his wife was smoking hot, and she had 5 stars. So we're going with the good looking thing. I'm just thankful that I got at least a 3, because I'm looking to make some dance moves here. So, but anyway, that's all we got for the stars. Was the process? What was the process flying international? How was the process flying internationally? You mean like into Mexico? Is that what you're asking? Let's see here. Yes. Okay. Well, we had our own problems. Here's one of the things that I wanted to mention about what I learned, painfully learned, about the passport card. The passport card is used between, the United States. You can use it domestically as an ID for flying in America and for Mexico and Canada. But you can only use the passport card when you're driving into Canada or Mexico or going by boat. Like if you're on a cruise, you can use the passport card. They will not let you fly into Mexico or Canada with the passport card. So when I got down to Boston, I only had my card. I purposely meant not to bring my passport. That was a bad decision and I thought about it and said, no, I'm going to just take my card. But I got down to Boston. They wouldn't check my luggage until I had the passport. So I had called my assistant up here and to drive the passport down. I missed the flight with my son. He was flying ahead with my luggage and his, and then because the passport was so late getting down to Boston, I missed my second connecting flight that they were setting it up, and so they ended up rescheduling me for the next flight the next morning, and I actually ended up in Mexico City the next day. My son was in the hotel by himself, and that was very stressful. And we could barely connect and all, but we did. The hotel was wonderful. He arrived in Mexico, didn't speak the language, got in there, and that was awesome. So, but anyway, that worked out. All Are there states eligible for TSA pre-check and global entry? I don't know. I've never seen that. But if you're filling out paperwork with the feds, I guarantee you the paperwork is designed for federal citizens. So it would also require us, or you'd have to look at it and take a look and see if what it says and what are they asking. Okay, and of course those questions are relevant, and so the alignment workshop would still be in play with respect to that pre-check and such as that. Do federal citizens with said clearances lose them upon relinquishing? You see, the thing is that yeah, I don't know. The idea is that there's no relinquishing federal citizenship. Like, listen, you've never had federal citizenship. You've filled out bad paperwork, so it's not like you're rescinding anything or relinquishing. None of that stuff's happening. If you're going to fill out paperwork, if you've had paperwork before, you're going to correct errors, but you're going to tell the truth this time and every time. And again, I'd have to look at the documents in order to make a determination of what it is. TSA pre-check global entry are really convenient. Some people like that. I'd rather not lose them if possible. Yeah, again, you'd have to check and see what it is that they're asking, and and what's available. Now, typically, I don't like to go through the scanner, so I always get the TSA massage, and I like that a lot. It actually adds value to my flight, which usually is pretty expensive. So if I can get the TSA massage, I feel that I'm really doing well. But the global entry lets you go and return without declaring cash, removing shoes, etc. It's very valuable. Yeah, there's no way for me to make a determination without, without reviewing those documents. So, we can do that. If someone's interested in that and you're looking to do that, then I guess it would be necessary for, us to review those. So we can do that for you if you need. I'm sure the Twink cards are the same. I don't know what Twink is. Is that the same travel something with? Yeah, so again, if you're filling out forms, you're just going to want to make sure they're filled out correctly. As soon as you travel international with 25K, explain it. Again, here's the thing, okay? Federal citizens have these obligations about $25,000. A state citizen has no international obligations to disclose monies or any of that stuff. That's all federal in nature. So, and if I were you, I wouldn't be traveling. I wouldn't be taking. Remember, Federal Reserve notes are private money, so they make all kinds of determinations about that. But again, if you're taking cash and all that stuff, there's ways of making sure that you're not bringing or taking said money or whatever. And even then, they have ways of checking and they want to disclose. But if you want to make a distinction legally, then make sure that they understand that you have no such obligation. And you might do that ahead of time in some capacity. But again, I'd have to review those documents in order to make that determination. Transportation worker identification credentials like security clearance for a job. Right? Yeah, I get all that. Yeah, I get all that too. But again, I'd have to read two things. I'd have to read the actual application, and then I'd have to read the statutes and codes that govern it so I can understand what it is you're actually doing. So it's certainly a privilege for them to offer this kind of a thing, but you'd have to determine it. You probably will not fill out anything online. That I can guarantee. Imagine a state citizen applies online for a visa to, say, India, blah, blah, blah. Said citizen has to choose citizenship from computer drop down. It's they choose the United States. Will that be a problem? Yeah, of course it's not accurate. And then again, you'd have to, if you understand the alignment, generally speaking, we're not doing, you don't do things by computers. And again, because you're not trying to make those distinctions. Every place has addresses. And here's the problem that a lot of people have, is when they're doing these processes, they get into a hurry, and then they want to, rush and do things quickly, and then they make errors and all that. So If you're going to be doing something as important as getting visa and all, then do things and take your time so that you can do them thoroughly and do them accurately. What a great blessing to be letting the State Department of India know that you're not a citizen of the District of Columbia. Because listen, the federal government has treaties with all these countries, and they're requiring these countries to disclose information about the federal citizen in all these countries because they have a tax liability worldwide. Understanding that, you want to make sure that you're not filling out bad paperwork. Everything we do is about having great paperwork. I'm going to talk about great paperwork in the next call because I want to talk about something that Jeff Berwick had passed my way. Um, it's like the NSA background check. That's fine. Um, when I mentioned the 5-star passport, I mean, how do the feds tell you from a state citizen from a federal citizen? They don't, and you're not needing it. When you're talking about different rules for traveling or whatever, how would an airport be able to differentiate citizenship status without? No, they're going to look at your passport and that's it. And again, I don't know, I have no knowledge or any information that the airport is making any distinction with respect to the asterisks on the card. I don't have any data about that. I've never seen our state citizens treated any other way. When you're coming into a jurisdiction, all the locals go to one side and all the foreigners go to another side. And that's usually the two separations. I've never known that you ever have to handle the difference between state and federal citizens at the customs or in any kind of a situation like that. You know, we've never seen anything about that. If you want to make a legal distinction and a difference, then you're going to do it with the State Department before you're traveling so that everything can be clear. And you may have records of things when they're asking you for disclosure. You may already have taken care of that ahead of time, which would be proper if you knew that that was going to be distinctions, and if you had a desire to bring more than 10,000 or 25,000 across the state line of some sort. How would you avoid their reporting requirements? You're not going to you by telling the truth. That's how you. But you're not responsible for someone else's reporting requirements. They're reporting things that are not necessarily true about you. You just want to make sure that your paperwork is clear. So, and again, whatever it is you're filling out and just do what distinctions you make. We've never had a client ever at any border that I'm ever aware of been dealt with in a different way because they're a state citizen. Usually when they look at the passport, they only are dealing with U.S. citizens, regardless of whether they're federal or state. It's usually with the IRS that these matters show up and matter. When you're in a foreign country, you want to make sure that you don't fill out bad paperwork. And that's why we have the W-8 and the W-9 for our clients with respect to this matter. And it'd be really kind of odd if you were going to say we don't have these disclosure obligations. If you look, that is going to be a federal citizen that has those obligations, because the Constitution doesn't empower the federal government to deal with state citizens in the matters of money, other than that they have obligations to produce money that's backed by gold and silver or precious metal in that capacity. But that's all for federal citizens, and if you're not a federal citizen, you wouldn't have that obligation. But then again, remember, the person that you're actually dealing with at the at the customs is the least knowledgeable of the subject matter. They don't know that there's any kind of a distinction. They purposefully make sure that person has no information about anything else other than the job they're told to do. That's pretty common. But I've never had, when you're dealing with the government coming in and going out, you want to keep your language to a minimum, and you don't really have to answer any questions. Now, they can hold you up and make your life miserable. You can miss your flight. They have that all in their power. If they sense that you're rude or you're being obnoxious in some capacity, that could be a problem. But anyway, that's some of that. Someone on YouTube says, "Hi, Chris, what's a good time uh, for you tomorrow to get my documents sent out?" Again, I wouldn't ask that on YouTube. Uh, I would either write us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, or if you have my cell, then just text me or write to me. So I would really wouldn't handle your personal matters on these kind of broadcasting situations there. So, but anyway, like your username. All right, well, we're at the top of the hour. Thanks so much for these questions. Hopefully, it's been helpful. After we get into talking about some of the stuff that's on my mind, um, we can come back to answering other questions that may come up. So I want to thank you for that time and welcome you to this hour of the DestinationFreedom.org. I'm glad to be on the call. It's been a couple of weeks since I've done this call, and sometimes I feel like I'm not in touch with everybody. But I am glad for this opportunity to talk about what's going on, and with Destination Freedom, where we're going, and to talk about some of the things that the experience that we had in down there in Mexico. That was exciting. So. Let's talk a little bit about Destination Freedom. I had sent out an email saying that I was going to raise our rates, and it was really painful for me to really think about that because we're really in a good place of helping people, and we've really worked hard at keeping an inexpensive route available for people who don't have a lot of money, and that's one of the reasons why we have the passport workshop. Okay, and so someone can save quite a bit of money not filing and paying income taxes, and that our process is really covers our expenses and things for that kind of help. Um, but what we did differently was we wanted everybody to have access to everything that we do. So both with the passport workshop and with the full passport process, we have gone ahead and have combined everything, and we just added everything so that um, would everybody would have access to everything, because we didn't want people to, they might do this or might, piecemeal and all that. So we decided just to combine it all together, and we have one fee for the passport workshop. So if you want to do your own paperwork in all these things, then that's one pathway. That's 1660 is what we added up for that, and that's the passport workshop. Then the full passport process, where we do your paperwork as well as we do your paperwork for the driver's license work. We do that paperwork for you. We do up your W-8 and W-9. Um, we'll do your FOIA request after your passport process. All that is for 3410 is what it comes out to. We literally just went with straight up the same way that everything adds up. And all of the new clients and all, what's also included in that is the all rights reserved stamp and all that. So everybody's going to get that as well. So that's the difference that we've made with respect to the our processes, and we feel that that's going to support people in a big way. Another thing that we decided was, because of where I have to move the work, that we're looking to open up churches and to move in that area. I was needing to free up my time in a big way. Now, one of the things that I'm looking for, I was going to say also that my son is moving, really, my son Michael is moving close to my office. It's like in the same building, it's in the same area. So that's exciting. He's going to be closer. We're going to spend more time together. But he's going to start working with me and traveling with me and doing some of our social media stuff. So that's one of the areas I'm looking forward to him participating in. He's really knowledgeable about that stuff. Um, so, but my office is in disarray because they're doing a renovation in the building that we have the office. And so, since I left for Mexico, we have the office is out of order. It's just packed full of. We combined two offices into one, and we're going to be in a new office. And when that happens, I'll be able to do this call like this from our office. We're going to have a new studio area. That's going to look really nice. We're looking to do more podcasts and do more calls like that. And so that's coming up. And I am looking for someone to assist me, an assistant, an office manager, if you will, that's going to be directly working with the clients and all that stuff, helping with our paperwork and things like that. But we're not doing this remotely. I had Josh working with us, and he was doing it remotely. Doesn't work for me. I need to be with our help right there at the office. We'll have particular hours and such as that. So I'm looking for someone who's in New Hampshire, who's close to Franklin, New Hampshire, that would like to be on staff and work with us. Now that person, of course, will be a client. They'll have done this passport process. We're not hiring employees. We're not doing any of that. This is just someone we're going to contract with it, and we're going to pay them accordingly. So that's one of the things that we're looking to do as soon as possible. And then and so those changes we're going to be making, and we're very excited. We're going to be ramping up all this stuff. By being in Mexico and connecting with Dollar Vigilante, we feel that that's a very large community. They're going to come in to do our stuff. And so we should see a huge influx of clients in that. There was an interview I did with Jeff, that's Jeff Berwick, down in Acapulco. That video will come out and will be on his Dollar Vigilante website. And so he had concerns that I would be very visible in what we're doing here. But, again, I don't know how many people out there. I agree with the IRS. Okay? The federal citizen, the U.S. citizen, that 14th Amendment citizen, has an income tax liability. They're required to file and pay. And resident aliens also have a requirement to file and pay. I'm also of the opinion that the income tax is constitutional. In the state citizenship class, I show you how the Constitution has empowered the federal government to do exactly what it's done. And therefore, it does. It created its citizen, and it governs and regulates that citizen. And of course, all corporations that have tax ID numbers, they also are required to file and pay. So, that's just the truth. And that's what the tax code says, and that's what it means. We're in that same place. All we're talking about is changing citizenship from being a federal citizen to being a state citizen. Okay? And that can eliminate that income tax liability. Now, what's interesting is one of the things, you're not going to do a W-8BN. There's no such thing as filling out a W-8BN correctly. So we have a W-8 specifically for state citizens, and it's not signed under penalty of perjury within the United States. So if you fill out a W-8BN, you're going to be filling it out as if you're a resident alien, and that's not true. So no, that's not bad. That's the spirit. Yeah, if you learn, we have support for you. It's, you're not having to fill out bad paperwork, so don't. Again, if you read the W-8BN, just read it. When you understand the terms United States and the word state, if you understand those terms in the tax code, you'll understand why that is a bad document, okay? So anyway, you can check it out. It's a very common error a lot of people make. But anyway, so getting back to that call. So one of the things that we're talking about this was that one of his video editors, that's Jeff Berwick's video editors, had said that the IRS has determined already that the state citizenship thing is frivolous. Now, in our class, we talk about that we know that the IRS feels that the state citizenship concepts are frivolous. We know that, okay? But here's the difference. When you read the IRS's paperwork about state citizenship, you'll see they'll be making references to taxpayers. Taxpayers owe a tax. That's what a taxpayer is in the tax code. So all taxpayers have a federal obligation to file and pay. That's one. Another thing that the IRS says, when you read these court cases and things about if someone is saying that they're a state citizen and they're still employed by a corporation, that person is not got good paperwork. As I've said many times, no one is going to take a tax stand at all being employed by a corporation. It's never going to happen. Don't do it. You'll have problems. And people do. So what I noticed about the IRS's paperwork about state citizens, there are people over the years have claimed to be state citizens or other things, and yet they have bad paperwork. We don't have bad paperwork. You have to have good paperwork. Okay? So I agree with the IRS on all of their stuff with respect to the people that were involved that they're making the determination. What we know from IRS is they say this. They say, we recognize that a person may believe that they're a state citizen, but they've offered no facts and evidence to support the claim. Our process with the State Department in the passport process, when we get certified copies of the passport file, is that evidence that we support the claim that we're not a federal citizen and that we're a citizen of our state. That's the evidence that we would supply. Of course, we know how to navigate IRS. We don't have any clients dealing with IRS. We've had people that are dealing with IRS that have come into our coffers, but generally speaking, I mean, with nobody that's dealing with IRS. And again, if you're going to be if you're dealing with the IRS, you can pretty much look in the mirror to determine why you're dealing with the IRS. Somewhere you've had bad paperwork, and the IRS is just going by your testimony. So that's what's got to change with respect to this. Let's see. There's a question or comment that says, "What do you think about the new Corporate Transparency Act that now requires a majority of all LLC now to file and report directly with concern to the?" I think that's wonderful. Okay. Well, don't have an LLC, okay? Everything in the private. When clients come into our space, they have to shut down everything that's corporate. Listen, there's no such thing as a private corporation. All corporations, without exception, are an extension of government. If you're going to be doing corporate activity, you will be taxed and regulated. End of story, full stop. So all LLCs, everything shuts down. When you want to do business, do it in your own personal capacity. If you want privacy, you can form a trust that's a contract. That's not a problem. Is it easy to dissolve an LLC or an IC? Oh, yeah. With a stroke of a pen, that's how easy it is. It might not be emotionally easy. Some people get in these habits and they don't really realize how emotionally tied they are to corporate activity. But it is simple to dissolve. Which, thank you for asking that, because we recognize that these pathways are challenging for some people. And that's why, and I'm going to send this stuff out in an email. But what we do now, we have two pathways that we're able to help our clients. One is if you want personal attention with respect to your pathway from whatever you have corporate all the way to into the private, then you can sign up for a 6-month weekly call, and that's $7,200, and we will spend time with you, answer all your questions, and handle you personally. Now, if you want to do it as part of a group call, we have that available. That's $2,400 just to do a weekly call in which we'll handle those questions collectively with a number of people that are in the same call. There'll be less than 10 people in that call probably, but that's a group call. That's also available, and then we have other support for helping you from, let's say you're employed and you want to move from employment into the private. We actually have a class that we're developing. Actually, we're going to do a class live, and you're going to be able to be a part of that first class where we talk about moving from being employed all the way to doing your own business. And there's plenty of things with respect to that, so that's good. Liability protection or asset protection by putting everything into your own name. Yeah, well, asset protection is easy. You're just going to put everything into trust. That's all well and good. Privacy is another way. By utilizing the trust, you'll gain a certain level of privacy with respect to that, and that's a big deal. But as far as liability, don't harm people. And if you do something in which is dangerous in some capacity that you might harm somebody, then of course you can buy insurance and privately set up insurance in your own capacity, and then your insurance company will cover whatever liability that you're risking, and they'll look at that, and they have insurances for it. So everything you can hire insurance and do in your private capacity. You don't have to have a corporation in order to do that. So it says there's no liability to actually protect everything in your own name, especially if you have multi-state assets with multiple LLCs already. Yeah, all that stuff in the private. Yeah, and again, if you're concerned about your assets, there's two things I would say. One, don't harm people. And two, then buy insurance in some capacity, or take that private asset and put it into trust. Everything from property to other things, because if you don't own it, then they can't take it from you in that capacity. And if you think your corporations protect you from liability, then you're kidding yourself. Listen, attorneys sue the individuals, they sue the corporations. Corporations can be sued. And in your personal capacity, I mean, the idea is that they can do a lawsuit against you personally if there's criminal activity or whatever it is. Attorneys always seek after money. There's hardly very good protections in that. But if you put stuff into trust, then you don't own it. And again, if you don't own something, then it can't be taken from you in that capacity. That's what we recommend. Where there's no filing of trust. See, it's not a statutory trust. It's a contract. It's a foreign, irrevocable contractual trust. There's no filing requirements. It's not a statutory trust. There's no tax ID numbers on these trusts. They're just private. So, yeah, there's no need to file any trust documents. If you're buying property or the trust is purchasing property that has title, then of course the state requires certain. There'll be a signature section with respect to the trustee having power of attorney to go ahead and do the paperwork and put property in the trust. The trust is a contract, and so the trust, whatever. I mean, if a trust is set up, whatever the players are, is going to be the jurisdiction in which they would do that. But the trust isn't in. It's not in state jurisdiction, nor it's in federal. It's private. So, if someone has a matter, then whatever that local jurisdiction is, that will be a court that they may determine that they want to sue the trust or whatever someone wants to litigate. Wherever the parties are, whoever the people are, that will be what jurisdiction is, and certainly wouldn't be federal, unless of course you were dealing with internationally, or you were dealing with, if you as a trustee were in one state and someone else was litigating in another state, that of course would be in federal jurisdiction to look at a matter as the trust is a contract. Remember you said that an individual or other entity cannot sue the feds without reliance about it. Yeah, no doubt. I'm aware of that. Nice situation they have. The trust must have a jurisdiction. No. Let me ask you, have you ever filled out listen, when you sign a hold harmless agreement with me, I mean, I'm in New Hampshire. If you're in another state, then that can be, if we're in different states, then the federal government will handle that matter between citizens. The Constitution says citizens of different states, if they're suing each other, it becomes a federal matter. So, but it's not that the trust is in that jurisdiction. We're talking geographically. There are courts that would handle that, and of course, you'd want to be able to sue in a court of record. Okay, but again, you have to remember this is in the private. This is not statutory in nature. There's no statutory code that governs the trust. Anyway, I have there's more trust information on the website. You can look at that. Yeah, there's what governing law of the no governing law. If you want to allege the Constitution, but this is worldwide. If you have a trust, it's a contract. That's the end of it. It's a contract. So, what jurisdictions are contracts in? It's whatever the parties are that are in that contract. That's where they are at. So, that's what it is. But there's no law that governs the trust because it's a contract. Matter of fact, the Constitution says the federal government can't enter into your contracts. They're protected from the feds entering in. If you bring a matter to a court for your own benefit, then that's where that court would be empowered. But again, you'd want to keep that clear. So, when you sign up for the trust, we'll share with you all of the trust law. It would be what they refer to as a pure trust or a contractual trust. Who's going to uphold the contract or enforce the contract Whatever party is having issue with respect to the trust. We have trustees and we have foreign or adversarial trustees. All of them have authority for their trust. If the trust was needing to sue someone, then the trustees would bring a matter accordingly. Okay. If someone was suing the trust, then they would find a trust in their geographical jurisdiction. That's how they would file it. But it still would be a court of record, not a statutory trust. So, and any court that's going to look at a contract is going to uphold the contract if it's a valid contract. That's, any common law court of record will uphold a contract if a party's looking for that court to clarify or to enforce a contract. All you have to do is look at what court will enforce a contract. It's civil court, So, and that can be a local court or what have you. So that's how it's just a contract. That's how it's work. That's how it plays out. Okay. Anyway, so that's so one of the things we're still doing is I will send out an email about those rates and about the support that we now will have for our clients. It's going to really, I'm going to be eliminating a lot of phone time that I've had with clients. We'll streamline some of that and make that available for us to deal with their work accordingly. Another thing that I'm going to send out in a separate email is we have a prayer website. It's a freedom prayer website that we're launching. It's been on my heart for a while. Not only is this work coveting prayer for people, with this particular website is a prayer website is going to have 24 hours of prayer, 365 days a year. That's what we're looking to set up for people who would commit to, say, an hour a week and to pray for freedom matters. We have a web developer right now. That website should look spectacular. We're really hopeful that the creative work that we're going to see in this is really going to pop. And it's not just that it's that people are making prayers, but it's going to be interactive where our prayer partners are going to be able to share with our prayer director insights and visuals with respect to whatever God wants us to know and to deal with. So it's going to be a two-way communication between the Almighty and our prayer partners. So that's one of the things that I'm looking to see come out of this. And the amount that we're needing for this prayer website is $20,000. That's the price that the web developer put on this particular project. So if you'd like to be a sponsor or help us with that, any aspect of that cost, that would be awesome. We have a first goal of $5,000 to begin the process. So if you would like to be a sponsor for our prayer website, then please reach out to us and let us know that. And we'd like to have you be a part of that project. If you're looking to be one of our prayer partners, then also reach out to us for that. We will have emails for that in the future, but you can reach out to me at you can reach out to us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org, and I'd be glad to that email will be forwarded to me, and I can personally reach out to you and all that. How does one get onto the email list? You can go to the Destination Freedom website and sign up on the website as part of our mailing list, and also you can email us at statecitizen@destinationfreedom.org and say that you'd like to make sure that you're in our email list. You can get in on these calls and know when they're coming out, things like that. So that's the way we do that. We only have people that are interested in this subject matter are on our lists. We don't seek out general emails in any capacity. Everybody that's on our email list wants to be in this conversation. So hopefully that makes sense. So that's coming up is the that prayer website. I'm looking forward to that. That should be pretty awesome. We have had some feedback. There are people that would like to be a part of that project, and I'm really thankful for that. So that's been on my heart for a number of years, and I'm glad this is finally coming to fruition. So that'll be exciting. The What else? So we have those changes. We do have the two classes that I'm looking forward to coming up. One is an IRS, from soup to nuts IRS, and the other one is um, oh, it's the one about coming out of becoming unemployable is what I titled that one, and that's from being employed and how you go about or opening up possibilities so that you can launch your own business and do your own thing and work directly for your clients. That's an important part about your freedom. But in the bigger scheme of things, really the best place you should move to is where you have assets that make money for you in some capacity. And we'll talk about that in that class. So we'll spend a number of hours opening up those possibilities. And again, we're going to give as much information as we can that we have talked to people over the years about getting into doing their own business and stuff like that. And we are concerned for people. Um, um, that they stay out of the federal zone as they move into these spaces. So, um, as everyone on this call get the grandfather rate. What's the grandfather rate? Listen, we didn't change our rates. No, we're keeping the rates the same. So anyway, yeah, I think the website has already reflected the prices of um, that everything is included in that. Well, listen, it was before I went to Acapulco. I had let people know um, that we were going to be making some changes, and although we didn't raise their rates, um, we are including everything. So, um, uh, um, Grandpa has passed on to the to that next place. But anyway, let's see. Well, that's good. I'm looking forward to meeting you and chatting and helping you stay out of the federal zone. The Let's see what else do we got coming up. Um, so those are some things coming on. We're still going to develop, and we're going to figure out how we're going to get into dealing with churches. If you're a pastor or if you know of a pastor that would like to see their church come out of the federal zone, then definitely make introductions because we're prepared to travel to your church and to speak with your pastors. Now we can talk online and do a this type of a call, a go-to meeting call, of course. But we feel that those personal contacts are so much better. So we want to help churches come out of the federal zone, but not so much even that the church is not a 501c3 or a nonprofit thing. Um, we really want to help the church eliminate its income tax liability and free up that capital for the church. And then we also are interested in helping the church eliminate its debt. And so many Americans, as well as around the world, are in debt. And so we're really looking to um, uh, imagine eliminating all of their credit card debt and their income tax, the kind of money that the church could have and that they could give for the support of their church. But we really would love to do that as a collective with the church, and we're interested in those conversations. So if you have any access to pastors or to people who are very passionate about not being connected to the district of pedophiles, then maybe you can reach out to us and let us know. Um, yeah, so someone says excited about getting a company off the ground and after the passport event. That's awesome, Don. We're looking forward to helping that. Thanks for you do. Get started reading it. That's awesome. Yeah, there's information on that. And again, we're going to do more. Our goal is to create a lot more value for our clients and what have you. We are going to implement a referral program where if you refer, if you're a client and you refer people, we're glad to that there be a referral fee. If someone refers, I think of at least 5 people in a month, then we're going to kick up and move them into an affiliate space where they can where we'll compensate them 10% of their passport process, either passport workshop or the full passport process. So we're excited about that as well. So we know that Dollar Vigilante will be an affiliate for us. That's exciting. They're going to make a number of references. That's good. We met some people that were from Sweden that are also looking to be, that have a lot of Americans a part of their, I think it was like a mycelium network of some sort, as well as Liberland, which if you're not familiar with Liberland, that's a new country forming. And Vit is the president of Liberland. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I've known him for a number of years. A lot of Americans are involved with that project. We want to help eliminate their income tax liability. So Liberland will also be an affiliate. Um, yeah, I've heard of that book, the Great Taking. So maybe they're part of the same project. Oh, speaking of author, um, I've written a book called State versus Federal Citizenship: The Unknown Choice, and it's in the editing stage right now. So we'll do a emailing about that if you're interested in a copy of that book. That's coming, and I've made a commitment to uh, work on that daily until that project's completed. Um, so I have an editor right now that's working on the book with me. So we're trying to move that forward and get that done. I'm hoping to have that project done maybe by the summer here. That'll be quite exciting if I can uh, finish that up. So that's on my plate. So anyway, so that's where we are. And I just want to open up and see if there's any questions about anything with respect that I've talked about, or even any of these processes we're doing. Okay, so what's the downsides to state citizenship? I can't think of any. Well, listen, it's the lifestyle change. Okay, so all these systems are designed for federal citizens to file and pay and all that stuff. So there is a discipline to staying out of the federal zone. And so if you're not bothered by that lifestyle change, then it's not a big deal. I mean, the benefits so far outweigh um, any of the downside. I personally don't feel like there's a downside. What a joy it is not to keep receipts and to file every year and all that stuff. I don't pay into Social Security. I have gotten a couple messages on the Destination Freedom website, and a couple of them have come up as like, do I lose my Social Security? Well, the truth is, no, you don't lose Social Security when you do these processes, okay? But if you're receiving federal benefits, you're creating a tax liability for yourself, okay? And so, um, thanks, Don, for answering. Don is now going to be my spokesman, okay? And Don, that is incorrect, but I want to qualify that, okay? Okay. Listen, there's a shitload of welfare that's out there, okay? And you're welcome to all of it, okay? And you can keep getting it even though you're doing as a state citizen. But you'll be undermining the separation you're making from the federal government. If you're receiving benefits from the District of Columbia, you're going to create a tax liability for yourself. So if you, I don't, Don, what the hell is federal support? Does that mean that we can kill people and that they can bomb things? That kind of, no. Um, yeah, federal dollars. Yeah. Yeah, welfare. There's a shitload of welfare that's always available. Listen, that's how the feds buy into the states. Listen, a state wouldn't have to secede from the union if it grew up and came off the federal teat and was able to be sovereign or separate of its own and be responsible for its own. Then here's the thing about it. The care the feds are handing out is shitty. Take a look at how well the care is for the veterans, how crappy that is. Take a look at how bad. Listen, you can get all the medical treatments from Big Pharma you want, because Big Pharma is also on the federal teat. So if you want the Big Pharma answers, then all of that. You can get cancer, you can have diabetes, you can eat shitty food, and then the government will be able to take care of you because they're all about sick care. And that's what that typically is. And again, there's no money in Social Security. It's senior welfare. So if you want welfare and you want to have the government take care of you, I don't think these processes are the best for you. So, that's your choice. But nothing snaps off, or nothing comes at anybody by doing these processes. But if I were IRS and you weren't filing and paying and you were getting Medicaid, I'd say, let's see if I understand you. When getting Medicaid, you are a U.S. citizen, but when it comes to paying taxes, you're not. Is that it? That we've seen the IRS say before about even doing passports improperly. But yes, all that federal, yeah, we're on the same page, Don, you and me. Yeah, all that federal crap is available. Remember, they tax and regulate you, and you're paying in quite a bit. The none of the money that is sent to IRS in the income tax goes to run the government, by the way. Listen, check out how much of federal debt goes into running the government. You'll see it's massive. So really, the way the federal government takes care of these programs isn't even through taxation; it's through borrowing, and so it's just a big crap show, So, but that's what's playing out. So that if you want welfare, then yeah, that would be a downside. You'd actually have to become responsible for yourself. That's the key or pathway to freedom. Is there any reason why someone should not go through the passport process? If you want to remain employed, I don't recommend doing this process because and no corporation is going to go along with you for your tax stand. Okay, they're just not. They're going to file and pay. IRS is going to ask them, "Can we have your money?" They're going to say yes. That's all that way. So if you're not committed to doing your own and being responsible for yourself financially, then maybe this isn't going to be good for you. And that would be honest about that. So if that makes sense, are there any specific things to look for in personal business contracts that may create an issue besides being absolutely everything you fill out or that you agree to, you want to read and understand. One of the things that I would have in a contract as a state citizen is that the other party is not able, and will they make any legal determination or any make any tax determination for you and that as a party. That's an important distinction because what happens when the feds come along is they do burden that third ignorant party and say and invite them to make a legal determination about whether you have a relationship with IRS or that you owe some particular tax. Because what they do is they threaten. It's not true what they're saying. They say, if you think that other party is not paying their taxes, if you don't give us the money, you may owe that money. And they use the word may, and it doesn't mean that there's no way in hell that the third party is going to be liable for someone else's taxes. Never going to happen. I've never seen it. But they don't care. As long as there's a threat and the person's afraid, they'll do whatever they're told to do. That's pretty common. But that's very typical for how people function. And if you look at the words may and shall, or even like will, which is much softer, but you'll see that those are juxtaposed to each other. And we read that in the instructions, all the words may. You'll see that in IRS. The IRS may, all the time. If you look at court rules, the court may do this, may do this, may do this, may do this. But the parties shall. You have obligations. The court and governments typically have options, not obligations. Absolutely. So understanding that language, we use that language as well in our explanatory statement. We say one of these statements, we say, the State Department may recognize me as a state citizen. We use that. That's one of the lines in our explanatory. The State Department may recognize me as a state citizen. Doesn't mean they will, but they may. And that's okay. We don't compel it, not like they do. So, does that make sense? Okay, so we'll get back into, once we get back into the office, we'll do these calls from the office. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be in a new environment. It's going to look great. We're expecting a lot more activity So we're hoping. One of the things I'd ask that if you keep in your prayers is that we locate an excellent office manager, and so we're looking forward to that. That person would be um, easily about anywhere from 24 to 40 hours a week. Um, so depending on how they step up and come in, but it certainly would and could be full time, but it'll start off as part time, and then once they learn some things, then that'll increase. It should be a lot of fun, and of course many times when we bring somebody on that hasn't done our processes, we require that they do all these processes um, in order to be a part of our team. We don't have any federal citizens on our team. It's inconsistent and is juxtaposed to our purposes. So okay. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I missed that I wanted to mention. Um, Again, I covet your prayers personally, Destination Freedom, and let us know if you'd like to be a part of um, a an hour. If you would like to pray for freedom in the world and certainly in America for an hour a week. We'd love for you to be a part of that. We're going to start inviting people into that once we launch the website. Then they can be a participant in that. We're really excited about that. Someone would be praying for freedom every day, every hour. That'll be quite exciting. That's my commitment, and we will see that happen. So I'm looking forward to that. Is there a good requirement in it's in person in the office position? They should understand how to use. I'll send that out in an email, but they should understand how to use Word and how to use Adobe Pro. That's like creating PDF files. We use those a lot. The person also would be good if they understand WordPress and can do WordPress emailings and all. That's part of some of um, our email programs, and then of course our back office is WordPress. So we have things in there that's necessary to look into. So if a person has that qualifications, that would really be a benefit to us. So hopefully, and what, dear? Yeah. There's paperwork. It's a big thing. We have templates for clients and all that stuff. So yeah, paperwork is a big part of that. But that person should have good administration skills of moving people from coming in and having questions into our talks as well as into our process and all that. They'll have a full understanding of all that. Um, but what do you want a person physically rather than from home or an internet based? Yeah, we want somebody in the office here in Franklin, New Hampshire. I don't really want to work remotely. It's a challenge. Um, so if they're in the office, we have all the support for them, and then all of the data gets to stay in the office. That's a good thing too. So no, I mean we've done remote working before, and it ends up being difficult for me. It's just more phone time for me. Um, but anyway, thanks so much, Nat. I appreciate you being on tonight's call. Um, Thank you so much. Yeah, so we're looking to connect with everybody. Everybody that's been on YouTube, I appreciate you. Be sure to like and subscribe and all that if you aren't already. That really helps us out a lot. I don't know how it helps us out a lot, but that's what everybody says when they do that. Like and subscribe. I imagine there's an algorithm that I have no idea how that works, but that way, if you see these come on live, you'll get notifications for that. That's kind of fun, and we're I haven't scheduled our next week's call, but um, I think what I'll do is I want to handle some of that IRS paperwork. I think that'll be kind of cool to go over and read some of that in the next call, because that's a very common difficulty when people think that the IRS knows what we're doing as opposed to know what people have done in the past. It's kind of it's a much different thing that we're doing than what people have done in the past. Paperwork is our forte. Facts and evidence is our forte, and that's what we're all about. So, again, thanks so much for everybody for being on. We appreciate you, and we will see you soon, okay? And we'll talk to you later. All right. Take care. All right. That's it for YouTube.